One thing that you realize reading history is what you could describe quite simply as the invisible hand of the elites. How the powerful, how the rich, how the powerful institutions protect their interests and advance their interests further by funding certain governments, funding certain groups of people, funding certain leaders, and how they manipulate different sides in a conflict, whether ideological, national, political, or military conflict, how they manipulate these different sides in order to achieve and further their goals. One of the things that's interesting about dominant mainstream narratives, especially political ones, is how naive they are regarding the elites or the rich or the powerful and how they are able to manipulate certain events. Because they seem to ignore the very basic assumption, which really anybody should have when studying history and geopolitics, that the powerful, that the rich, have their own self interests at mind. And this isn't necessarily an absolutely horrible thing to understand because it's just a very human reality at the end of the day. We all have our self interests. But inevitably, if those in power have their self interests, they may come at the cost of innocent people's lives, at the integrity of certain societies, and at the cost of protecting certain nations. And so we see throughout history how different political factions have been manipulated, different civil wars have been made to occur, different coups and different military plots have been planned out in tandem with the interests of certain self serving, powerful peoples. Now, this doesn't mean that we should adopt a defeatist attitude, and this is a mistake that many people make. We shouldn't be defeatists. There are many people amongst, let's say, the powerful who are well intended, who have good intentions. But we've got to understand that there are also nefarious groups, nefarious peoples who are, conspiring actively to, sometimes, at the cost of people's individual liberties, people's individual rights. And so, by being proactive, by trying to bring about good change in this world, by seeking to preserve the liberties, the freedoms, the rights that we also cherish and value, we can help the people across the world. We can help, you know, set up stable societies for the future. And we can help, bring about good to millions of people across the world. But that can only come when we maturely understand the reality of politics and don't fall for this kind of naive optimism that politicians just want the good of the community or the powerful just want the good for everyone, because that simply just isn't true.